When Damien Wilde sent over his Xiaomi Mi 11 for me to review, it was something that I was really looking forward to. I always liked the looks of one of these, and to put it through its paces made me pretty eager to try it out. However, spoiler alert, although the Mi 11 is a fantastic smartphone, at £699 in a very competitive space at the moment, is it worth buying and picking up over its competition? Well, hey, I'm Ryan Thomas, and thanks for Damien Wilde for sending out this review unit. Today, we're going to answer that question. As I mentioned in the intro there, you can get one of these brand new for around £700, which might sound like a lot of money, but today, for a high-end smartphone, that's just kind of the going rate. You can pay above £1,000 for a hyper-premium one, you can pay sort of £500 for a flagship killer, or what might have been known as a flagship killer before, so £700 is around the starting point. You'll be getting sort of the iPhone 12, the OnePlus 9 with some extra storage, stuff like that for this kind of money. That's some stiff competition for a brand that isn't well recognised for quality over here in the UK. A lot of my friends and family who buy Xiaomi smartphones buy them because they're cheap and relatively reliable, not because they're specific flagship smartphones that they want to spend all their money on. If they've got a lot of money to spend, they tend to either buy a Samsung or an iPhone. This one though does have all of the flagship buzzwords and specs that you'd expect from a high-end device, including the top of the range Snapdragon 888 processor, 8 or 12 gigs of RAM, 128 or 256 gigs of storage, a 4600 mAh battery with 55 watt fast charging, a 108 megapixel main camera, and a 6.81 inch Quad HD 120Hz AMOLED display. Now, let's unpack what all of that means and how Xiaomi customers are going to be using this thing. Starting with performance, the Mi 11 was flawless for me during my review period of about 5 days. I tried a myriad of games on it, including Genshin Impact, Real Racing 3 and PUBG Mobile, to which I found a smooth gaming experience, and this is likely accentuated by the 120Hz display. It's not all about the processor and RAM combination, but I found the Mi 11 to be a delight to game on. And the same goes for day-to-day usage, guys. I mean, come on, this is flagship hardware we're talking about. Swiping around the screen, switching between apps, all your usual stuff was absolutely not a problem for the Mi 11. And that's to be expected for the top-of-the-range processor and RAM. It will stay fast for a number of years, so there should be no concerns when it comes to longevity of performance, at least over the next 24 months. This thing is rapid. I had to mention the screen there because it does feel like it adds to the experience. It's an almost 7-inch 120Hz AMOLED display. Oh, add in the Quad HD resolution as well. What does that all mean? Well, it's really high resolution, so seeing individual pixels, unless you're really holding it close to your eye and unless you have incredible eyesight, is going to be a task and a half. The fluidity is fantastic thanks to that 120Hz refresh rate. Pixel response times are brilliant too, thanks to the AMOLED display, meaning that you're not going to get a lot of ghosting, and the overall display is very bright, it's very big. I found it to be absolutely phenomenal during my time with it. There is one niggle I have with the display, and it's something that's really annoying, and actually voiced my concerns about this on Twitter. I'm verified now, by the way, so I'm officially important with my 700 followers. Anyway, my huge concern with this thing is its in-display fingerprint scanner. Now, I've not got on with a lot of in-display fingerprint scanners. I honestly find them atrocious. I'd much rather have a capacitive one on the side, the back. I don't care if it ruins the aesthetic. I'd just rather have one of those. However, that's not to say that I haven't tried some very good in-display fingerprint scanners. The ones that Samsung tend to do have been fantastic for me. So I've actually used the S10 Plus, the S10, the S20 Ultra, and all of those ultrasonic, I believe, is the technology they use there. The in-display fingerprint scanners have worked a dream. However, the capacitive is what I'm guessing this technology is in here, and my edit Ryan will put a confirmation on the screen, is just not very good. It's unreliable, it's slow, and I'm sure on this B-roll it looks really fast, and it's just one of those things that when you're getting your phone out of your pocket, you want to be able to have it unlocked almost before you're even looking at the display, and this thing just takes forever a lot of the time. You need to get the placement just right. It's really picky on that. You have to hold it down in a very certain pressure amount. You can't push down too hard. You can't push down too little. It's just really, really annoying, and it's something that kind of ruins the experience for me, not gonna lie. Like, I would not daily this smartphone purely for that fingerprint scanner issue. However, there is Face Unlock, and if you're more of a PIN guy, then you can use that as well. but for me, this is kind of a deal breaker. It is just that annoying. Also, this is a slightly different issue, but no double tap to open the camera by default is annoying. You can go into the settings, in additional settings and like a load of sub menus, and you can enable it, so I did. But this is something that I think should be on by default, and this isn't exclusive to the Mi 11. I think just Xiaomi Skin should be doing this. I think Samsung's been doing it for ages, Huawei's been doing it for ages. It's just an annoyance for me. I know a lot of people aren't going to really worry about that, but for me, I like to have that instant access to the camera app by double pressing the power button, and that's something that you can do, but it's just not on by default. Let's talk about software. This is an area where I think the Mi 11 gets mixed opinions, as MIUI 12.5.1 on Android 11 looks very clean in my opinion, but like previous comments, I do have a few issues with it. Firstly, why is it that you have to swipe on a side of the top of the screen to get either notifications or the quick settings toggle? I really don't like this. I like swiping down once to get notifications, swiping down twice to get the full quick settings toggle. It's been like that for years, and I think people have become quite used to that. It's quite intuitive now. People who are used to Android would just instinctively do that, and swiping left and right to get between your quick settings and your sort of notifications is, I don't know, just not intuitive. It does remind me a little bit of Control Center and of the notifications on iOS, which if they're going to copy that or going for that copy, then I guess that makes sense. But on the Android side, we're just not used to that, and maybe that's different with the Android 12 dev preview and stuff. Maybe that's all integrated, but honestly, I don't follow the latest and greatest Android news. Secondly, the whole settings menu is a bit of a mess. Like, getting to that thing where you can double tap the button for the camera, that was an absolute pain in the butt. I've tried Xiaomi's MIUI before, and honestly, I just don't like the settings menu. The wording doesn't seem to be right. I have an example here. Yeah, the navigation gestures, you know, the ones where you go from sort of 3 buttons to swiping up and swiping to hold to get the recents and stuff, that's all under full screen display, which in my opinion is absolutely not where it should be, because full screen display to me sounds like sort of you're taking a game or an application that's designed for 16:9 and making it full screen, sort of adapting it, maybe punching in or doing some kind of trickery. Not the navigation gestures. That should be its own thing. Like, navigation should be its own menu. I don't know, maybe I'm rambling. Let me know in the comments if you think this is an issue too, or if I'm just being an idiot. Otherwise, the interface is very clean, it works, and you'll likely get Android 12 and 13. The Mi 8 got Android 10 despite being launched with 8.1, so it won't get 11 for what I've seen on forums. It's not going to be the most longevous. It's not going to have the most longevity compared to like a Samsung, but it's still going to be pretty good. I would expect to get, like I said, Android 12 and 13 on this thing. The battery life now, it's honestly not bad. It's not amazing. 4,600 mAh sounds about right for the size of the phone. I was able to get a full day, probably a day and a half on my usage. If you're a real power user, then you will need to top up at lunchtime, you know, talking 55 watt fast charging. And when I say power user, I mean screen 100%, using lots of 5G or LTE, Bluetooth connectivity, the lot. Like, you would need to push this thing pretty hard. What I tend to do is I will put my earphones in for around 15 minutes a day walking to and from work. I would use 4G for maybe an hour or two a day, but actually overall I would be using Wi-Fi, sort of screen on 50 to 75%, and I'm getting a full day, day and a half. So that's to kind of gauge your thing. I don't do screen on time metrics on this channel if you're new to here, because it's honestly a mess. Like, you cannot really use screen on time as a metric to determine battery life, because people's environments and use cases are so different. Let's chat cameras now. And I hate to say it, but it's another one of those heavily imbalanced camera setups from China. Big, high resolution, 108 megapixel main sensor, a more basic 13 megapixel ultra wide, a 5 megapixel depth camera for fluffing out the spec sheet, and a 20 megapixel selfie shooter. For a £700 phone, that's pretty poor when you look at the actual balance of the thing, but let's not judge a book by its cover. What about the samples? Well, there is a clear difference in quality between the main and the ultra-wide. The colours and contrast look more washed out on said camera, while the main looks richer in those areas with more detail to boot. I have to say though, the main camera, even in tricky conditions, did impress me. It took nice looking images in a whole host of environments including low light. It still does struggle at night, and that's been a trait of many Xiaomi smartphones because the software doesn't seem to capture enough light. I've personally tested this on many phones, but there we go. And also it does tend to underexpose if you're in a brighter environment, or maybe you've not got so much light and it's just like a highlight or something. It will try and expose for the brightest point of the image, making the whole thing a lot of times underexposed. After using a phone with a periscope zoom for so long, I really don't think I can go back. And this isn't a big knock to Xiaomi because it's not an ultra premium smartphone and they have an ultra variant that has one of those. But I think that even a more traditional 3x telephoto would have been nice to see here. Having, let's face it, a gimmick camera where a telephoto should have been for a £700 phone is a bit of a Mickey take if you ask me. Xiaomi has definitely stepped up its game when it comes to computational photography, and I'm impressed with how far they've come. It's no longer a case of dismissing them for their processing. It is good. It just isn't quite as good as Samsung's, Apple's or Huawei's. The lack of even a normal telephoto seems like a missed opportunity in my opinion, but there we are. So let's answer the question, should you actually be buying one of these? Well, if you're really into a pretty looking smartphone, something that looks really nice and premium, with a good quality main camera, a fantastic display, the top specs, and you don't want to spend four figures, this is a good smartphone to buy. It's a very well-rounded smartphone with not quite such well-rounded spec sheet when it comes to the cameras. However, overall, I think that many people will be happy with one of these. Of course, you're getting the Google Play services. There's not that sort of Huawei issue. Getting fantastic performance, battery life, camera, screen. I mean, you're getting the full package. Now, whether or not you want to use MIUI on a daily basis, that's going to be something you have to work out in your head before buying the smartphone. Personally, I would probably spend the extra and get an S21 just because of One UI, but then I value that software experience more than you might, or maybe you even prefer MIUI. So it really is up to you at the end of the day. But thanks to Damien Wilde for sending over this smartphone to review. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for the sort of week off I had before the P30 Pro review. That was a nice week off. I actually started a new job just about a month ago now, and so I've just been getting used to it, and the back catalogue of videos has slowly dwindled. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas. Please do like, dislike, comment and subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one. Also check out all my social media links in the video description. And I want to give a massive shout out to my Patreon supporters for being continually supportive. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you later. Peace.